I don't want polygamy because I don't believe in it for me anymore.
We've got these great memories and we got these beautiful children, and you hate polygamy?
Are we ever going to have an intimate marriage again? And he just said, probably not.
I didn't want to be in because I had somebody who was stabbing me in the back.
It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Tuesday, February 1st, and we have been on this like Duggar Sister Wives kick for a minute because this is like the kind of content that you have been eating up over on YouTube. And I was thinking about the episode for the first part of 3 that we talked about yesterday with Mary Brown and Kody Brown talking about their marriage, and we didn't really get into what happened between Christine and Kody. And I was thinking about how back in November we spoke to Kristen Decker, who is the aunt of Christine, who is her mom's stepsister. So Kristen Decker, back in November when we were talking about Kody and Christine's split, was really unsure about what the split actually meant, because she explained that when people split up in polygamy, they can basically leave the church, they can get a divorce through the church and stay in the polygamous world, or they can, and then they can take like another actual like spouse, or they can actually not get divorced and they can just be separated and live like separate lives. So on the show, Christine basically said that she and Kody are divorced, and they announced their divorce on social media. And she said that you can get divorced through their church, but she felt that this was between her and God. And that comment alone made me think like, is Christine like thinking about leaving polygamy? Is this not something that she is believing in anymore? And next week, we're going to see that Christine is at a place in her life where she says she no longer believes in polygamy.
I don't want polygamy because I don't believe in it for me anymore.
We've got these great memories and we got these beautiful children, and you hate polygamy? The crap!
Are we ever going to have an intimate marriage again? And he just said, probably not.
Now, this is an earth-shattering change, because if you know anything about the way that they grew up, in order for them to get into heaven, the belief system is that it has to go through polygamy, and that men that are polygamists basically can marry as many wives as possible and carry their kingdom into the celestial kingdom, and they have a ton of kids, and it's all about building like their own planet in heaven. And they believe that they have to have so many wives in order to get the celestial kingdom. And so really it's all about giving the priest the priest on planet Earth as many wives as possible for his goddesses in heaven. And this is the belief that has Mary stuck in the relationship with Kody, because she firmly believes that she needs to go to the celestial kingdom with Kody. And Kody even said that based on their religion, they would not be together if they didn't have this religion. So it's this idea that they have to be together because Kody needs X amount of wives in order to get this kingdom. But Christine has been for a couple years showing that she may not be on that same track anymore. And I think it was last year that they did a interview with Us Weekly, and Christine flat out said that like literally none of her kids believed in polygamy and none of her kids wanted to be in polygamous relationships. So if you know anything about her kids, she has McKelty, Aspen, Peyton, Gwendolyn, Isabel, and Truly. And Aspen is married to Mitch. They are going to stay in a monogamous relationship. McKelty is married to Tony. They plan on staying in a monogamous relationship. And Peyton is still single. And then the rest are like, Gwendolyn's only 20 and Isabel's only 18. But none of them want it, and all of the girls don't want it. So that was the big thing for Christine, was that her girls said that, you know, they're very independent, and she just wasn't into that anymore. Over the last several years, we've noticed a shift in Christine too, because, you know, a lot of her daughters are a little bit more liberal and progressive, and we've noticed that she is supporting causes that are not in specific line with the rest of the family. And so there's been sort of this like fundamental shift of Christine. And I think in part her her daughters have been a huge part of maybe helping her see the light. And it's wonderful that she has their support. In this coming episode, in this next week's episode of part 2, we're going to get into the relationship between Kody and Christine. And she says to the host that she doesn't believe in polygamy anymore, like at all. Like it's not for her, which is amazing because if you remember, it's like she grew up and she said she always wanted to be the third wife. And that's really because most guys only have 3 wives. It's really not that common to have more than 3 wives if you're not like a leader in the church. So she likely thought that she would be the last wife and then she wouldn't have to compete with anyone. That's just my opinion. But it's pretty typical, and I'm pretty sure that's what she said on the show. And then she had these ideas and ideals about polygamy, and it just didn't work out that way. When they added Robin, there was a ton of jealousy, and not to mention the fact of how Kody and Christine came together. It was just if you read the book, it seemed like Christine was younger than him. She was actually, I think, underage when they first met. Kody and her were friends first, and Kody was never even attracted to her in the beginning. He actually wrote about how she was gross because she ate a plate of nachos. It was the worst part of this actual book was about describing how she ate chili cheese nachos, and it grossed him out. That should have been her first red flag not to be with him. But anyways, so now she's at a place where she says, I don't believe in polygamy anymore. And Kody is apparently like, what the crap? You don't believe in polygamy anymore? You, after all of these years, after all of these kids, after all of these memories, do not believe in polygamy anymore? Which means that Kody still believes in polygamy and she doesn't, which is weird because on the show, Cody's like, I don't know if I believe in polygamy anymore. I'm just disenchanted. I'm not really sure. There's such an inequity. I mean, on the show, he acts like he's so over it, but then in the real world, I don't think that's the case. I think Kody wants to have his little kingdom up in heaven, and I think he truly believes that this is what he needs to do in order to get there, or he wouldn't live like this. But polygamy is hard. So anyways, it's not healthy for women or men. So she doesn't believe in polygamy anymore, which means that she could very well be leaving the church of the Apostolic United Brethren. So if she doesn't go through the church to get her divorce and she just leaves, she can just basically leave the church. And when she leaves the church, she leaves the belief system, she leaves the community, she leaves that whole mindset about the kingdoms, and it really is a huge shift in her paradigm, her theology, because if you think about it, for her whole life, she thought that she had to be a polygamist to get to heaven. And now she's saying, I don't believe that to be the case, which means fundamentally, they don't have the same beliefs anymore. Fascinating, huh? So Kody would rather the wives stay because Kody knows that if he lets a wife leave, he's considered a failure in his church. So Kristen Decker spoke about this in an interview with her that I did in November, but basically they abandon their wives before they actually once they get to an age where the wives are no longer bringing them children in. She explained that a lot of the older polygamous men sort of put their wives out to pasture and they abandon them because they are not going to bring them any more children, and their needs to bring more children to the kingdom is fulfilled. And because a wife isn't bringing in more children, that's like his only goal is to make as many kids as possible. So it's not the goal to have this united relationship. So once her goal is met, he brings in new wives like Robin, and we learned on the show that he basically cut off his relationship with Mary at that point. So once a wife stops with child rearing, the relationship of husband-wife can change dramatically, especially if the husband's goal is to have as many wives as possible, as many children as possible, because it's physically impossible to maintain a relationship. And in some cases with polygamists, they don't really have any relationship with their wives other than having kids. I know that sounds bizarre, but what you're seeing on TV with him not having much of a relationship with some of the wives isn't abnormal at all. Having a favorite wife isn't abnormal at all. But as Kristen stated, just because Robin's the favorite now doesn't mean she'll stay the favorite. It has to do with her being compliant to Kody, agreeing with Kody, and giving him children. And if he were to take a younger wife, that could actually change because he could bring in someone new and replace Robin. It's like every time he brings in a new wife, he's effectively replacing the old wife. So he still believes in polygamy. Christine does not believe in polygamy, and Christine is probably then going to be separating from the church, which is phenomenal because it's a cult. It's a cult. It's a cult. It's a horrible, horrible cult. And what's also phenomenal about this for Christine is that she has a long lineage. Did you know that her grandfather was actually the leader of the AUB at one point? Kristen's dad, actually her step-grandfather. Did you also know that she had an uncle that was a former leader as well? She has had her family. She has both the LeBaron and the Allred last names, which are like the two big names in polygamy. The other one is Jessup, which we all know that's mostly in the FLDS. The Allreds and the LeBarons are two of the big names, two of the big families, and she has both. Her parents are Allreds and LeBarons. So Christine leaving means that she is a grandchild of a former AUB leader that would be leaving the church, which is huge. Kristen is a daughter of the former leader who left the church. It's amazing. And they're every day having more and more and more people leave this church. And it's not a huge church anymore. It's gone through a humongous shift. I don't know if you were aware of this, but when the former leader died, there was a dramatic split in the church over allegations of SA by one of the leaders that was to take over this group, and the church split over that. And so it's just not as big as it once was. But I know you guys say that the Browns are not a part of this church. That's not true. They are a part of the church. They're just not as involved because there isn't a church by them. But that doesn't mean they're not still in members of the AUB. So Christine, this is like a long diatribe to basically say that Christine's belief system has dramatically shifted, and now at 49, 50 years old, she has taken a position of, I'm leaving polygamy. That's freaking amazing. So amazing. So Christine has an entire world out in front of her. She could take a husband. I mean, she could have a monogamous relationship if she wanted one. How amazing would that be if Christine had a relationship with a man and it was reciprocal, and it was they both had their tanks filled up. One of the things that Kristen told me about her husband that she married after she left polygamy was that she for the first time found true love. Like, she did not know what love was to have a monogamous relationship until she found her current husband, and she said she desperately wanted that for Christine. So maybe in the future, I'm not saying that she has to find a new person now, but maybe in the future, that is what Christine will finally obtain, and feel that connection that she's been so desperate for. Because if that's something you've never had and it's what you want, I hope she finds that happiness. Kody, for his part, is likely to take another wife, I'm sure. There's already rumors that there's some new wife on the horizons. I've yet to see any substantial information. And then there's also rumors that Kody and Robin took the names of all of the wives off of the properties, and that is not true. I did a quick search in the property records in the county that they live in Flagstaff, and as of today, all of the wives are still on the property that is Coyote Pass. Christine obviously doesn't own any homes down there, and Robin is the only homeowner. Janelle and Mary are renters. So at this point, the property that they have at Coyote Pass still has Janelle and Mary on it, and it still has Christine, which I don't know if they plan to take Christine off and give her a portion of the money. I don't know if they're still working on the assets side of it. I really have no clue. So that's kind of where we're at with that. But no, it's not true that they've removed everyone else from the property. So what do you think about Christine leaving polygamy? And then what do you think about Kody being like, what the crap? Seriously, Kody? What did these women even see in him? That's what I want to know. Are the pickings so slim in polygamy that he was the guy? All right, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Bye, guys.